Welcome to the Cabral Concept, where board-certified naturopath and integrative health practitioner Dr. Stephen Cabral shares how he was diagnosed at the age of 17 with a life-altering illness and given no hope for recovery. It was only after studying and traveling all over the world did he discover how to combine ancient Ayurvedic healing practices with state-of-the-art naturopathic and functional medicine to fully rebalance the body and re-energize it with life. It's time to discover how to get well, lose weight, and finally feel alive again. And now, here's your host, Dr. Stephen Cabral.
Welcome back, everyone. Great to be here with you today. Can't wait to get into our Total Wellness Tuesday, where we are going to be discovering this whole new genre, this whole new topic of stealth pathogens. So if you've never heard about stealth pathogens before, I will break it down for you, and you will then know what to look for, because stealth pathogens are actually underlying root causes that cause you to feel sick, tired, anxious, and overweight. And you might be saying to yourself, how is it possible that a pathogen or one thing causes me to feel anxious, mood-based issues? I start to gain weight. I start to feel tired. I start to feel unwell. How is that possible? Well, you have to understand that a dysfunction of the body literally means that the body has become imbalanced, where it can no longer function at a state of equilibrium. That is what we're talking about. And that is why one of my very favorite forms of natural health is called bioregulatory medicine. I'm not going to go through bioregulatory medicine today, but I would love to share with you and explore it to a deeper level from previous podcasts that I've done. Now, a lot of people, they ask me a lot of questions on Instagram and direct messages and all that, which I'm always happy to answer. I really am. However, I just want you to know that you can search over 2,000 podcasts for your answer anytime you want at stephencabral.com/podcast. It's all completely free, and it gives you pretty much all the step-by-steps. So if you don't know about a term such as bioregulatory medicine, there's definitely a podcast on that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to link up everything that I talk about here today at stephencabral.com/2125. That's where all the links will be today, okay? And then you can always search stephencabral.com/podcast. Now, bioregulatory medicine, though, is one of the most amazing facets of the new science of medicine, and being able to create homeostasis or dynamic equilibrium in the body when someone is unwell. It actually breaks down the 6 phases of disease, how we get sick and eventually die from disease. It breaks that down. And believe it or not, it's based on Ayurvedic wisdom. It's just kind of taking it to the present day. We teach that inside of IHP. It's what we work with our private wellness clients on. I want to teach it to you, because bioregulatory medicine is a lot of what we're going to talk about here today. The body doesn't break down by accident. It is a sequential breakdown over time. Most people get sick over years, not months or days. The only time it happens in a day is like me at 17 years old. I wake up with swollen glands over my whole body, my eyes basically swollen shut, my tongue's swollen, something's going on with my body. And I'm like, whoa, what just happened overnight? Well, what happened overnight is 17 years of improper living and over 3,000 capsules of amoxicillin for all sorts of health issues when I was younger, right? That's what happens, okay? But that took years in the making. Now, some people certainly could encounter a large degree of pesticide in one day. For example, someone, let's say you work or live right on a golf course, and they're spraying pesticides all over the lawn, and you're outside and you're just breathing that all in. Well, if you have detox pathway issues, certainly you could get sick from that right away. But for most people, it's a gradual filling up of that rain barrel, and then an overflowing where, again, one day you're sick. And again, it's just not one day. These things happen, but they're happening below the surface. Stealth pathogens are a big reason why we fill up that rain barrel, why we become dysfunctional in our own bodies. And yes, that leads to every disease imaginable, inflammation, mood issues, and weight gain. So let's get into it right now. You have to understand that it is always about the terrain. I will do a separate podcast on this, but there's basically the germ theory, Louis Pasteur, right? That, okay, when someone gets sick, it's because of a germ. It's a virus or bacteria, right? But you have to understand, And Pasteur, that it is said, and I believe this because he obviously was a brilliant man, that he recanted on his deathbed that it is not the germ, right? It is not the germ, but instead the terrain, the soil, which Antoine Béchamp had a differing view, that it's the terrain, it's the soil and not the germ of why we become sick. And we know deep down that that's the truth, and here's why. If a virus enters your home or you're on a plane and someone is sick, there's no doubt about it that you've been exposed to those viral particles, right? Let's say pre-masks, all that. Let's say pre all that, right? We went on planes. You heard people coughing. You heard people sneezing, right? And in the row behind you, certainly that could spread 3 feet. Certainly we know at least 6 feet, and super spreaders 14 feet, right? So you have to understand, everybody on that plane didn't get sick the next day. Some did, some didn't from within that vicinity. Why? It's because it's not the germ, but the terrain. Some people weren't as run down. Some people weren't as stressed. Some people's immune system were functioning a little bit better than others. We have to understand it is about the terrain. We need to improve our terrain. So as I'm talking about here today with you about these topics, I want you to understand the terrain, and I'm going to go much more in depth on another show on this. The terrain is all about your deficiencies, right? If you don't have enough zinc and you don't have enough vitamin C and you don't have enough vitamin D, you're going to have a weak immune system, right? That's part of our immunity protocol. C, D, zinc. Now, we were talking about this way pre-pandemic, but not just us, other integrative health practitioners, other functional medicine doctors, other naturopathic doctors. This is not new to the natural health field, but all of a sudden now, if we take vitamin C, zinc, and vitamin D, it's not a cure-all, but it's certainly going to boost the immune system. There's no doubt about that. It's clinically proven. This is hard science. It's more hard science than most of the science you believe is out there, right? This is clinically proven for many, many years. Thousands of studies. Zinc helps the immune system. You don't want to go overboard with any of these. You want to take a normal dosage, not a mega dosage, but a normal dosage, okay? Anyway, those are just a couple deficiencies. It could be omega-3s, could be selenium, right? Selenium for the thyroid. It could be any number of things. It could be literally any of your vitamins and minerals, B vitamins, right? What do you need B vitamins for? Energy, creating carbohydrates to fuel in the body, B1 for the thyroid, B5 for the adrenals, B3 for cholesterol and mood. Again, you need all of them for the human body, but we know that these things work, right? So that's deficiencies. Got to replace those deficiencies. That's part of the terrain. What about toxicities? Well, toxicities are everything from pesticides on especially the Dirty Dozen foods. And if you don't know what that is, go to stephencabral.com/podcast, type in Dirty Dozen, and you'll find podcasts on that. So here's the thing, though. You can be exposed to 144,000 man-made chemicals. That's part of the toxicities we're exposed to, and we simply have to continue to detoxify our bodies. Yes, our liver does that on a daily basis, so do our kidneys, skin, and lungs, but we need to give it help, because if you've ever run an environmental tox test, heavy metals test guarantee you that there's something there until you work on it. All right. But the next is what else affects your terrain? Mood, emotions, unresolved trauma, all of that is there too. We've started to talk more about that, but that's certainly important. And the last one, though, are these stealth pathogens. Now, I would actually classify stealth pathogens as part of toxicities, right? Because there's really only two things to work on. Deficiencies, all the vitamins, minerals, amino acids, protein, etc., that you might be deficient in. And again, if you're lab tests, I'll talk more about that. And then there's toxicities. And the toxicities can actually be emotional-based stress, right? It can be EMFs. It can be any of these things. And stealth pathogens is one of them, right? So it really comes down to a teeter-totter, right? A scale of deficiencies and toxicities, right? And the more deficiencies we have, the more toxicities we're going to have, because our liver doesn't work as well. We know exactly what the liver needs in order to work, right? Vitamins, minerals, certain amino acids for phase 1 detox. We need antioxidants in the middle. And then for phase 2, we need a lot of sulfur-based amino acids. We know how these things work. Do people get all of those? No, they don't, right? Even on a healthy diet. So we know these things. All right, so here's what stealth pathogens are, because that is the name of the game on the show. But I wanted to set the table, because you're more likely to get a stealth pathogen for it to take hold in your body if you have deficiencies and toxicities. Okay, so stealth pathogens are any infectious microorganism that works to suppress the immune system. That means literally it is a living thing inside of you from the outside environment that is actually suppressing your immune system. Let me give you one example before we start to get into what it causes. Actually, you know what? Let's go into your symptoms first, see if you might have any of these symptoms or diagnosed diseases, and then we'll go into what all these stealth pathogens are. So stealth pathogens, you have to understand this. They trigger inflammation, okay? So they trigger inflammation, and they also lower the guard on certain parts of the immune system. And I'll go over that right now. So stealth pathogens, the interesting thing about them is that they can actually embed themselves in biofilms in your nasal passages, down the throat, in the intestines. All right. The most common place is in the nasal passages, the sinus, as well as in that 26 feet of intestinal tract. Really important to remember that, because what they do, and this is an important one to remember for later in our conversation, they draw in heavy metals as well. So this biofilm, this fibrous-based substance that's actually built up in the intestines, and you can actually see this, you can actually pass it, that it begins to be a hiding place and breeding ground for a lot of these stealth pathogens that I'll talk about in a moment. But they can also hide inside of your cells, inside of your tissue, making it very difficult for a lot of the immune cells to rid them from the body. Other pathogens create what's called almost a molecular mimicry. So molecular mimicry essentially means that your body recognizes one thing as another. So it can actually short circuit the immune system or make it more hypersensitive. So this means that if someone has like intestinal permeability, we'll say, and certain proteins are coming out, the body could obviously have a normal immune reaction to proteins seeping through your gut wall, but at the same time recognize another tissue in your body or actual bacteria that's attached to something like the thyroid and go after it, or in the joints, like Hashimoto's in the thyroid and rheumatoid arthritis in the joints, or MS with the nervous system, right? So we have to understand that a lot of conventional medicine, they like to write things off as that your body's messing up, your immune system's messing up, and we just need to shut down the immune system with biological drugs. You have to understand that that is such a Band-Aid based approach. It really is. The body is not making a mistake, okay? Yes, it's off course, but it's off course for an underlying root cause. And most of the time, are these stealth pathogens, and the majority of the time, they're coming from the gut. We know this. Again, I wrote about this in the rain barrel effect, and many other doctors have as well. This is not my research clinically. I've seen this in a clinical practice, but it's not my research. Again, I read the research, but I also back it up with clinical practice. That's a big thing. So what are some of the symptoms? All right, recurring weak immune system. So like recurring infections, you get a cold over and over and over, you're always feeling run down, right? So a lot of fatigue, a lot of joint pain, a lot of inflammation, a lot of stiffness in the body, sometimes skin rashes, sometimes headaches and migraines for no good reason, sometimes kind of pain behind the eye, especially on the right side. Sometimes you'll have swollen glands for unknown reasons. You'll get hives, right? Urticaria. You'll get itchy skin, unknown reasons why. You'll get loose stool or sometimes constipation or sometimes both. So recurring constipation with loose stool. Sometimes brain fog or poor memory recall, difficulties with sleep, a lot of food sensitivities in general, highs and lows in mood, highs and lows in appetite. Really, really common, okay? So if any of those kind of set off alarm bells, this is something to look for. Now, if you've been diagnosed with something such as, let's say, fibromyalgia or migraines or an autoimmune issue such as RA or Hashimoto's or MS, or even things like Crohn's, colitis, any of these issues, certainly, I would say everything on the ASD, so the autism spectrum disorder, should be looked at in terms of stealth pathogens, no doubt about that. Any digestive issue besides Crohn's and colitis, such as IBS, IBD, you definitely want to look at this. And so those are the main ones. Again, memory issues, dementia, et cetera. You want to look for these stealth pathogens. There's just no doubt about it. So what are these stealth pathogens? Well, the best way to look at it is that, again, they are living things that use you as their host, okay? So they're not all parasites, but parasites are a great example. So a parasite you get from a salad bar, right? Your local salad bar, food wasn't washed well enough, right? That's an issue. Undercooked meats, okay? Undercooked fish, like sushi. Easy ways to get parasites. Easy ways to get parasites. Now, some people don't end up with a parasite even when they eat a parasite. How is that possible? Good amount of stomach acid, strong digestion, strong immune system. They don't get a parasite. Some people do. That's why it's not the germ, it's the terrain. All right, this is really important to look at that. What are some other examples of parasites? Lyme disease. I mean, Lyme disease is technically a parasite, right? So when you look at that, what are you doing? Well, you've had an parasite latch onto you, and then all of a sudden the bacteria is entering your body from their body. So this is an important one to look at as well. Now, the bacteria is actually a living thing. So now the bacteria from the tick is now moving into your body, which then takes hold inside of your cells, destroys mitochondria, creates inflammation, all sorts of issues, okay? So parasites, Lyme, those are a few. Another big one is all of the gut-based issues. Think about this. Candida overgrowth. You might say, well, you don't really get candida from the external environment. I would agree with you. I think that's fair. However, you're born with Candida albicans and actually many different strains of Candida. Candida albicans just gets all the press because it's for the most part the largest form of Candida in the body. And it's supposed to be there. It's actually a natural part of the body and we need to have it. However, it overgrows, and it overgrows with antibiotic use and for many other reasons, right? Carbohydrates are not the reason that that Candida overgrows. Candida will overgrow with certain carbohydrates if it's given the opportunity to, and it's only given the opportunity to if there's an imbalance in gut bacteria or there's actually space in the intestinal tract. But again, most people won't tell you that because that's just, again, peeling back the onion deeper to go deeper on this type of knowledge that has been taught to us, right? This is not my information. I've researched this. I've read this. I've learned this from Ayurvedic, TCM, bioregulatory medicine, naturopathy, etc. So the information is there, right? It's just we have to choose to go deep on it. But Candida is another good example. Small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, okay? It could be commensal bacteria. It could be pathogenic bacteria. It can be bacteria from outside of the body, or it could be bacteria from inside your body that is overgrown as well. That's really important to look at that. Or it could be bacteria that was meant to be in your colon that has moved up to your small intestine, causing SIBO as well. That's another reason. H. pylori, Helicobacter pylori. This is a big one. About 25 to 33% worldwide have H. pylori infection. Well, what does it mean when you have H. pylori infection? Well, you have a bacterial overgrowth, typically starting inside of the stomach, and it can move to other places inside of your body. All of these things cause immune-based dysregulation, inflammation in the body, which can lead to any disease that you're genetically predisposed to. So hopefully now it's making sense that your genetics matter, but they only matter if they're put into an environment that allows them to express themselves, such as, again, in my genetics, I already know I have rheumatoid arthritis because I got it when I was a teenager, right? I already know that I have adrenal-based issues because I had Addison's disease as a teenager. I already know that I'm prone to type 2 diabetes because I had it as a teenager. Same with POTS and many other things. Same with massive allergies. Why do I have these things? Well, it's part of my genetics. Now, the interesting thing is I'm 25 years older, but yet I don't have those diseases anymore. I was diagnosed with those diseases. I still have the same genetics. Why don't I have those diseases anymore? Because back then my terrain was a mess. My immune system was a mess. Now, over the years, I've learned to rebalance that, and now it's better. So you have to understand this is not your destiny. Your disease is not your destiny. It doesn't matter if anybody else in your family had it. All my grandparents had rheumatoid arthritis. Both my parents had rheumatoid arthritis. Then I got it, but then I don't have it anymore. Why? It's all in our genetics. So then we get to choose the expression or not. Now, you don't get to choose when you don't know the information in the beginning. It's not your fault. But once you learn, you can choose to reverse this. And you wouldn't be, of course, the first one. All right, other types that I want to share with you is viruses. Okay. So viruses like the adenovirus, Epstein-Barr virus, these things are stealth pathogens as well. All right, they can absolutely infect the body. Now, the nice thing is when your immune system becomes stronger, when your body is more balanced, it is able to suppress these, have them go dormant, and there's debate over whether it can totally eradicate them or not. But in any case, those herpes-based viruses, et cetera, you can make them go dormant forever. Okay, so that's a nice thing to see. Couple more that I want to share with you. streptococcus bacteria, pneumonia-based bacteria, pandas, all of these things can be eradicated, but they are stealth pathogens. All right, they are stealth pathogens, so it's important to look for that. And the big one that a lot of people are talking about right now is mold. Mold is another stealth pathogen. It enters your body from the external, whether it be food or the air. It can be mold contamination. 51% of all northern-based climate in the U.S., especially in New England, have mold, right? There's just no doubt about it. Is it black mold? No, not always, but there's mold, right? And then there's mold on a lot of dried goods for sure, right? So there's mold on those as well. And we can accumulate those over time, which leads to mycotoxins in our body that also begins to shut down certain parts of the immune system. Why? Because these things don't want to be killed either. They're living things. So inside of your body, they will actually start to suppress things like Th17 and other parts of the immune system, which would typically go after these pathogens. Really interesting. So how do you find out if you have any of these plus heavy metals in your body that begin to accumulate in that biofilm? Well, not just us. So I want you to know that we do in our private practice, okay? But you can find people all over the world that do this as well. So you can work with our private practice over at EcoLife. You can work with any of our level 2 integrative health practitioners, right? Or you can work with your local naturopathic doctor. And I recommend any one of those that's the best fit for you. So what you want to run though, if you have any digestive issues at all, right? Or any skin issues, migraine issues, a lot of the autoimmune issues I spoke about, run the bacteria and parasite stool test. Run the Candida metabolic test, also called the organic acids test. Run an IgG food sensitivity test. If you can do those, you're going to learn so much about your terrain, so much about the strength of your body. Okay. If you're able to run the Big 5, I recommend the Big 5 because then you'll be able to look at cortisol levels, thyroid levels, vitamin D levels, all your vitamins, all your minerals. Definitely recommend that. For all these labs, again, you don't have to purchase anything, but go see what they are. Go to stevencabral.com/labs, and I will share with you all of the recommended labs we use in our practice. That's the best place to start. Why is it the best place to start? Here's why. You're going to get on a call then with your local integrative health practitioner or your naturopathic doctor, or you're going to get on a call with our EcoLife team. We're going to explain the results to you, and then you're going to get a protocol built for you, right? So that it's based on your deficiencies, your toxicities, and your stealth pathogens. Now, the other part is this. So let's say that you're not going to run any lab tests. What you want to start to do, though, is at least begin to follow the de-stress protocol to begin to strengthen the overall health of your body, right? And then it's essentially free. I give the book away, The Rain Barrel Effect, now in its 3rd year at stevencabral.com. And that's going to give you the exact diet, exercise, stress reduction, toxin removal, rest, emotional balance, supplements, and success mindset that we use in our practice. Gives you it all. I give you my detailed plan. So that is yours. You can also go through all of the previous podcasts on your specific category, such as mold or health or Lyme. All you have to do is type in that keyword at stevencabral.com/podcast for all those details. So this was your intro to stealth pathogens, but I've talked about each one of these pathogens previous to this show. So then you can go deeper on any one that you want to know about at stevencabral.com/podcast. And if you want to get started, just to figure this out once and for all, go to stevencabral.com/labs, choose the Big 5, choose the gut health bundle, whatever works for you to begin to get a plan to start taking actions. That's what it's all about. So hopefully this was helpful. Thank you so much for tuning in. Of course, ask any questions you have. We're happy to answer them. And feel free to share this show with anyone you believe it could serve. Take care, everyone. Thanks so much for tuning into today's show. Appreciate you joining me here. Once again, as always, I appreciate the support. And right now, going on over at EcoLife, you can save up to 25% off the entire store. Over 100 different products, protocols, and at-home lab tests, up to 25% off. Plus, this week, we are adding a brand new fun feature to the EcoLife website, and that is our way of hopefully spreading the holiday cheer and also allowing you to save even more. To see what I mean, head on over to stevencabral.com/shop. Again, that's stevencabral.com/shop for up to 25% off store-wide plus unique features only happening this week over at Equalife. Take care, everyone. Have an amazing day.